Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'll be giving you my Matchday 1 Champions League predictions. Now, obviously, this time we have the new format with that whole new league phase. Every single club has their own unique schedule, and in the past, in the group stage, we had a total of 6 match days. Now there's 8. So technically, this series will be extended this time around. I've done it in the past for the other Champions League tournaments, and you guys really seem to enjoy it. So if you want to see more of this Matchday prediction series for the Champions League, don't forget to hit the like button. Let's try to hit 3,000 likes on this video. Now, I am uploading this right before Matchday 1 does begin. I'm cutting it close, but that's because I did want to wait for the series of matches that happened last weekend to occur, as there was international break prior to that, so form for many of the clubs have changed. Lots to talk about here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you're new, and let's get into it. Starting off with one of the first fixtures happening, Juventus versus PSV. Juventus seem to have some questionable years, but now are on a solid rebuild under Thiago Motta, who just had a lot of success with Bologna. They start off really strong in the city out, defeating Como and Verona 3-0 each, but then picked up 2 0-0 draws against both Roma and Empoli. Empoli have surprisingly been undefeated so far as well, to be fair. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this club performs with their return to the Champions League, especially against a club that are in such incredible form. PSV should definitely not be ruled out in this fixture, for they finished the Eredivisie last season with only 1 loss, accumulated 91 points while scoring 111 goals the entire season. This season, they haven't slowed down. So far in 5 matches, they've only been getting wins and scored 20 goals already. The problem with PSV is that although they always do so well domestically, at least through the recent years, in the Champions League last season, they really seem to cut things close in the group stage. Although they have a very interesting squad and can pull off a result here, especially with Petr Bosz, who can be a tactical threat, I do think Thiago Motta can have a strong start to the UCL this season. I will be going for a simple 2-1 victory for Juventus, although I would not be surprised if I'm wrong. The other match to kick off the Champions League that will be played at the same time as Juventus versus PSV is Young Boys versus Aston Villa. Aston Villa should be the favorites here, but Young Boys in the UCL qualifiers on their way here, they defeated Galatasaray on the final stage, getting a result over both legs, and do have some solid underrated forwards that can surprise the Premier League club. However, Aston Villa also have some fantastic forwards. Last week we saw the Colombian youngster Duran score what already could be the goal of the season in the Premier League against Everton to seal a victory for his club, coming off the bench every time and making an impact. Obviously, we cannot forget about Ollie Watkins, who got an insane amount of goals last season, and then there are other signings in different positions as well. Onana seems to be worth the price so far. We can go on and on how exciting this squad is, but Unai Emery seems to be building something great. Matches of the season so far in the Premier League have been cut close, but only 1 loss so far to Arsenal. Although this club did show some minor inconsistencies in the Conference League last season, they showed that clubs that are smaller than them on paper should not be underestimated. I do think they could come out strong at the beginning of this Champions League campaign. I'll be going with the score 3-1 Aston Villa. Now for Real Madrid coming up against Stuttgart, being played at the Santiago Bernabeu. There is no denying that Real Madrid are the heavy favorites. They should always be when their club is put under the spotlight in this tournament in particular. They had a questionable start to the season, picking up a few draws in matches that should have been comfortable 3 points, especially with all eyes on them upgrading their attack, but their last 2 matches have been 2-0 victories against solid Spanish clubs. Now they do have a few massive injuries like Jude Bellingham, Brahim Diaz, Camavinga, but the depth remains for this club to not be ruled out ever. Stuttgart have been in interesting form as they lost their first Bundesliga match against Freiburg, but were scoring 3 or more goals a match after that defeat. The loss of Guirassy doesn't seem to be a problem. They got the likes of Undav still, and Demirovic already has 3 goals this season. You cannot rule out a club that finished above Bayern in the Bundesliga last season, but I do think Real Madrid have what it takes to get actually a narrow victory. I'm going for 2-1. I think it will be close as Stuttgart have been scoring in all of their matches so far, but Real Madrid will just have the edge with their attacking display. Now for Bayern Munich versus Dinamo Zagreb. Oh, I would love to see an upset here, but I don't think it's likely. Dinamo Zagreb have just lost the Eternal Derby in their own home ground and failed to beat Rijeka recently as well. It has both clubs in front of them in the Croatian league. Although I think Dinamo have what it takes to pick themselves up domestically as the season goes on, for a form shift this quickly in the UCL, especially against such a tough opposition, I think it will be too tough. Bayern destroyed their most recent opponent 6-1, with Musiala scoring a goal within 14 seconds and Kane getting a hat-trick. They had 1 close thriller against Wolfsburg at the beginning of the season, but regardless, they are undefeated so far. And unfortunately, I don't think their hot form will be ending against Dinamo Zagreb. Played at the Allianz Arena as well. Volim to Dinamo, please prove me wrong, but I think it's gonna be 3-0 Bayern. Moving on to Sporting versus Lille. Now, out of the 2 clubs, Lille are definitely in worse of form. They squeezed through in the qualifiers against Sparta Prague and have picked up 2 losses already in Ligue 1. To be fair, one of them was against an informed PSG. While Sporting are flying high domestically, 5 for 5 wins, including defeating Porto, they're the only undefeated team in the league. No surprise their Swedish striker Gyökeres has already scored 8 goals. Keeping him after being such a high profile last season is massive for the club. With them playing this match at home, I do think Sporting will win this one quite comfortably. I'm going to go for a 2-0 scoreline, but we'll see. Now for one of the biggest fixtures on Matchday 1, AC Milan versus Liverpool. Milan were looking to be in questionable form at the very beginning of the season. They only just picked up their first Serie A win last weekend against Venezia, but it was a massive 4-0 victory. Interestingly, all the goals came in the first 29 minutes of the match. It will be a massive confidence boost going into their first match of the Champions League, especially after Liverpool just lost their first ever match of the season against Nottingham Forest. Yup, after being in incredible form under Arne Slot, scoring the goals and getting clean sheets, looking to rebuild momentum after getting the biggest victory against Manchester United at Old Trafford 3-0, they had a rude awakening after international break, losing to Nottingham Forest 1-0 at Anfield as well. Their first goal conceded in their first match loss, it puts everything in question going into the UCL. It's interesting how they'll respond to that defeat, especially with having to go to the San Siro. It's not going to be easy. Too many chances wasted last weekend, along with poor communication between the players, but I do think Liverpool will be able to respond well, even with playing an away fixture. I will go for a Liverpool 2-1 win, and choose to be not too reactionary to their Nottingham loss and Milan's win against Venezia. Definitely a toss-up of a fixture though. Let's move on to Wednesday's fixtures now, starting off with Bologna versus Shaktar. Bologna have yet to win a single match in the Serie A this season. They've only been able to get draws, along with a 3-0 loss to Napoli. Obviously a tough transition after losing some key players along with new management. Their new manager though, Italiano, does have good success in making deep tournament runs. Can he squeeze this club to at least a playoff spot? It's definitely possible, but they need to win fixtures like this. Shaktar have been very inconsistent with form, and there's no denying they do have a defensive problem at the moment. Even in their latest victory, while they scored 5, they still conceded 2. This is an extremely tough one to call. I could see it going in a high-scoring draw though. I'll have it finishing 2-2. Now taking a look at Sparta Praha versus RB Salzburg. Sparta Praha definitely got unlucky with their draw, but this is the perfect first match to make a strong start in the Champions League. They're at home against what I would say is a doable club. Salzburg have a lot of good young quality that's always been their reputation, but they do have some key injuries, including Karim Konate and Kjærgaard, and it's hard to judge this club's form at the moment. Their last match was played 18 days ago at the time of this recording, and it was a loss to Rapid Vienna. Same with Sparta Praha, we haven't seen them play in 17 days. So in many ways, this might be the toughest matchup to predict. I will just lean it towards Salzburg getting 3 points though with a 2-1 victory. One I will leave a more confident prediction for though is PSG versus Girona. Many people have been saying that PSG will struggle this year with Mbappe's departure, but they have been in remarkable form so far. Not a single match in Ligue 1 where they scored less than 3 goals, with the likes of Barcola making a name for himself, João Neves proving to be a quality signing, and Dembele racking up numbers as well. While Girona have been getting some solid results when they should, they also have been getting annihilated by better teams on paper. They lost to Atletico 3-0 early in the season, and last weekend conceded 4 to Barcelona in their own home ground. I don't think it will be much different having to face a very informed PSG, so actually I'm going to go for another 4-1 scoreline here as well. Now for Club Brugge versus UCL finalist Dortmund. Dortmund, yes, with their incredible run last season, will be looking to make a deep run here once again. In the Bundesliga so far, despite an underwhelming 0-0 draw to Werder Bremen, they haven't lost a match yet, and in the matches they did win, they turned up attacking-wise. You saw the pace of the game elevated with the likes of Milan and Adeyemi scoring last weekend to help get a 4-2 victory over Heidenheim. Club Brugge are on a similar run of form, but they have played more matches in their own domestic league and picked up 2 very early losses. But recently it's been 2 comfortable wins and 1 draw. Despite the departures of Igor Thiago and Antonio Nusa, as predicted, the likes of Skov are still turning up. This is one of those fixtures I would not be surprised to see an upset, especially after Club Brugge's last UCL campaign, but I am going to go for a Dortmund 3-1 victory. Celtic versus Slovan Bratislava now. In my initial prediction, I said that Slovan Bratislava will be the last place club in these overall league standings by the end, and said that Celtic might crumble at the end as well, but I would not be surprised if they prove me wrong to get a playoff position. That's because Celtic have had a decent transfer window and have been in some very solid form so far this year. Even in the preseason friendlies, they got the best of some Premier League clubs. Now they just beat their rivals Rangers 3-0, along with getting some consistent victories, scoring multiple goals each match, only conceding 1 goal so far. Meanwhile, Slovan Bratislava go from losing 5-0 to winning 5-0 in their next fixture. The Slovakian club have more inconsistencies present. Celtic have every reason to be confident. I'm saying they went 3-0 in Glasgow. Moving on to a UCL final not too long ago, Manchester City versus Inter. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity for Inter to kick off their campaign with some fuel, defeating the club that stopped them from winning the Champions League. But Manchester City are no joke. They're the only club in the Premier League that have 4 for 4 wins, with Haaland already scoring 9 of their 11 goals. While Inter are undefeated so far as well, but have had a few shockers in the Serie A. 2-2 draw to Genoa earlier and a 1-1 draw to Monza this weekend was not ideal. Their strike force of Martinez and Thuram will need to step up, or maybe we can see Taremi and Arnautovic make an impact here. A match where City definitely needs to keep their composure here, and I'm sure they are well aware of how difficult of an opponent Inter are, especially after that UCL final. It was definitely a close affair. They were lucky to have Lukaku assist there, but I still think they have what it takes. I think they will be able to be one of those competitors for first place in this league phase. I will go for an outrageous scoreline of 3-2 going Manchester City's way. Now we move on to Thursday's matches, starting off with Crvena Zvezda versus Benfica. Benfica have had a rocky start, losing their first match of the season, but have responded well, only getting 1 draw since. As of now, it seems like the team is still somewhat learning how to gel well together. We haven't seen Pavlidis really break out fully just yet, but a match like this could be his perfect opportunity. Meanwhile, Crvena Zvezda are at the top of the Serbian Superliga with just 1 draw and made a good comeback against Bodo Glimt in the qualifiers. Obviously, this club have won the Champions League before quite a while ago, but in recent times, I can't help but feel they always struggle in European football, no matter how well they're doing domestically as well. This would be a massive statement for them to get a win against Benfica in Belgrade. And out of all the times to play them, this is probably the best, as Benfica are looking to improve as the season goes on. Many strikers have been in form so far, like Bruno Duarte, so do not be surprised if we see an upset here, but I am going for a 2-1 victory for Benfica in Belgrade. I never get a Benfica prediction correct though, so we'll see. Next up, Feyenoord versus Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen have finally lost in the Bundesliga to Leipzig, ending their massive unbeaten streak, but they have responded back wonderfully against Hoffenheim away last weekend, scoring 4 goals. Meanwhile, Feyenoord's new start to the season without Slot has been underwhelming, you could say. Still undefeated in the Eredivisie, but with 1 win and 3 draws. Their 1 win saw a hefty scoreline difference, but not enough for me to think this side could be energetic enough to compete with such a top-tier Bundesliga team. With the German club being able to keep so many of their incredible players from last season, I see Bayer Leverkusen defeating Feyenoord 3-1 in the Netherlands. Next up, Brest versus SK Sturm Graz. Brest told an incredible story to qualify for the Champions League last season. The start of the season hasn't been so bright yet, losing to big teams like Marseille and PSG with some insane scorelines. Their only win so far was a big one though. This is their first ever time playing in European football, while SK Sturm Graz, unlike Brest, have had quite a bit of experience recently, but in the lower tier competitions like the Europa League and the Conference League. Many times they fall short at the end, sometimes in unfortunate ways. With Brest playing at home, I could see them striving to make a statement here, but I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. SK Sturm Graz has still been able to score a lot of goals in the Austrian league, so we'll see what happens, but I'm going for a draw. Moving on to Atalanta versus Arsenal. Arsenal are missing Odegaard now with injury, along with new signings Calafiori and Merino, but are still flying high as they've just won the North London Derby this weekend and only have been halted slightly by an informed Brighton so far with the draw. Atalanta's form has been so back and forth, getting pummeled some matches, but then coming back scoring loads of goals. Their most recent match against Fiorentina, we saw a 3-2 victory, with Lookman on the score sheet as well. The same player who scored a hat-trick in the Europa League final against an undefeated Bayer Leverkusen. Although Arsenal are in incredible form right now, I would definitely not rule out Atalanta in this fixture. This is a club that definitely do not mind being the underdog, proving people wrong. Not just the Europa League final. In the road to the final, they had to come up against Liverpool as well. And in this fixture against Arsenal, they're playing at home, so they could surprise many. I know it won't be the popular pick and I could easily be roasted after, but I'm going to say this is my upset for the week. Atalanta defeat Arsenal 2-1. I'm sorry to my Arsenal fans, but don't worry, I definitely see you coming back after that. Just my initial shock for the Gunners. Moving on now to Atletico Madrid versus RB Leipzig. Now in my initial prediction video, I put Leipzig in a poor position, which got many people annoyed. But my main reason for putting them so low was because of their tough schedule. Of course, straight after filming that video, they went on to end Bayer Leverkusen's streak, which had everyone believing this side will compete in the Champions League. And of course they could. Atletico Madrid so far are undefeated, but have picked up a few interesting draws along the way. Their last match this weekend was a massive one for the club though, with Alvarez and Conor Gallagher getting on the score sheet for the first time against Valencia. While Leipzig, after that incredible victory over Leverkusen, drew with Union Berlin 0-0. Too much attacking options on both of these sides with a lot of quality to show for. I would love to see Shaktar get on the score sheet in this fixture. I see this match either finishing in a draw or with Atletico Madrid winning. And this is a match I think is going to be narrow, and I'm going to just give it to Atletico Madrid with a 1-0 victory. And finally, the last match we're looking at this video, Monaco versus Barcelona. Barcelona are such heavy favorites in this, with them having one of the most explosive starts to the season. Under Hansi Flick, they're the only team to get 5 for 5 wins in La Liga, with them scoring a total of 11 goals in their last 2 matches. Monaco and Ligue 1 have so far been undefeated with just 1 draw, so of course Barcelona cannot rule them out, especially going away. But this club just seem to be building momentum, confidence, and are completely unfazed no matter the opponent they face. I think Barcelona can get that away win. I'm going for a 3-1 scoreline. But yeah, those are all of my predictions, guys, for match day 1. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. A lot of this obviously could age terribly, so can't wait to see what happens in this Champions League campaign. Anyway, I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. La cu noci.